afternoon, everyone. Looks like we're rounding up. I don't know about y'all, but I think I need a holiday after a holiday. Kind of slow going. Thank you for saying hi from your agency in the chat. That's kind of nice. We get a sense we're big enough. It's a little bit hard to always know who all's with us. So thank you for that. We do not have a long meeting today. It shouldn't take us too long. So we'll go ahead and get started. And first, I want to say hello to everyone. There's a lot going on, and I miss seeing y'all. I can't wait until we can come together. But we know that there's a lot impacting you and your agency. We certainly have a lot hitting us as well. And so we do want to talk a little bit about some of the things that are coming out of the foster care lawsuit. If you're like us, you've been trying to keep up and make sure that you're implementing processes and you're somewhere in that on that journey with us. So I wanted to make sure that we had some folks available. I know that some of you've been calling Marie or Patricia or Shay asking questions. We want to make sure that we're giving you what information we have about some of those things. So Marie and Shay are going to talk a little bit about some of the questions that they've been receiving. There may be others of you that have those same questions, so we'll let them talk that through. If you do have another question related to the foster care lawsuit or the heightened monitoring process, feel free to put that in the chat. If we can answer that today, we will do that. If not, we'll take that back and see if we can't get some information for you. And I will try to follow that. So I will turn it over to Marie to start. If you want to talk a little bit, Marie, about some of the questions that have been coming your way.
Sure. Welcome, everybody. So I'm Marie Clark. I'm the Director of Care Management, for those of you who don't know. And we want to talk to you guys just a little bit about the new requirements around reporting or being informed about child sexual aggression, child sexual abuse and behaviors, and then y'all's responsibility around informing temporary placement. So by now you guys should have gotten the information from our quality and contracts team that and probably most of you as well from the state of Texas, that anytime a child is placed with you all, you will be receiving not only the regular placement paperwork, but also either a placement summary form from CPS or the OCOK placement summary form. So some questions that we've seen around that: will we get both of those forms? And the answer is no, you'll get one or the other. So depending on who makes that placement will kind of determine which form you end up getting in that situation. So if it is a brand new removal and the placement is being made by a DFPS worker, by an investigator or family-based worker, somebody like that, then you'll be getting the DFPS form. I believe it's a $27.99.
$22.79.
Thank you, $22.79. And so that form will be the form that you get when DFPS is the one making the placement. So most frequently that'll occur when it is a brand new removal. For any placement that an OCOK worker makes, so any subsequent placements, that will be the OCOK placement form. So we have gotten permission from the state for our form to be able to be used for our placements. So anytime that we make a placement, you'll get that. So you will not see both, you'll see one or the other. So the other thing that really kind of affects you guys and that we're seeing a lot of questions around is around notifying when there's a temporary placement. So when a child goes into a temporary placement, so that could be going into the psychiatric hospital, going to the regular hospital, if the child gets arrested, if the child goes into some sort of treatment program, something like that, a temporary placement, respite. It is the provider's responsibility to notify that temporary caregiver and get them to sign off on the placement summary form, acknowledging that they have received the information about the child's sexual abuse or sexual aggression history, and that they understand that. So you all will need to come up with a plan and provide that to your quality and contracts person. So as to how you all will ensure that will happen, that information has to be given and signed off within 3 business days. And you will need to keep track of that for monitoring purposes. So all of that will need to be, how you all will do that will all need to be a part of your plan. So you do need to create that regardless of whether or not you take state kids or just OCOK kids. You will need to do that for both. Yes, I did say respite as well.
So Maria, I see a question. What placement form did the temp providers need to sign?
The placement summary. And so we're working on creating some extra spaces on our form where people can sign off on that. But basically, if the state has said if there's no more extra lines, or they can sign the back of the form, or they can sign another form that's attached to that, they're not really picky about that. They just need to show somewhere that they have the certification form is fine. That will suffice, yes.
Okay. Shay, any questions that you've been receiving that you want to address?
No, ma'am. Those are the main ones that I'm getting as well. It's just either one of those forms will work. So if you're not receiving an OCOK placement summary or a 2279 at placement, feel free to contact me immediately, and I'll make sure that you do get it. Intake should be giving you one of those at the time of placement. They should be sending you the attachment A prior to placement so that you can review all confirmed history with all the staff that need to be reviewing that, and then having it signed the day of placement. So if that's not occurring, please feel free to reach out to me.
Okay. Yeah. If you have any questions, just throw them in the chat there. We'll circle back around as you're thinking about that. So the foster care lawsuit, I think this is a good example of something that really, they are interested in safety of children. It's very simple. And these kind of the directions that they're going are anything that will, from their perspective, improve safety of children. And in this, particular instance, of course, it's about sharing information, vital information that caregivers need to provide good care for kids so that there's no surprises later. And I know that you all appreciate that and understand how important that is. But it's not only developing a process and following it, but you have to have documentation that it's happening. So that's kind of the piece of lots of signatures and that sort of thing. And you may see other processes that come from the state that do involve that kind of proving that you are really doing what you're doing. And the upside is really just solidifying that we're doing a really good job of communicating, which I remember early on from some of the clinical meetings when we first started, you all brought that up. Information sharing is such an important piece of how you make good placements, and we certainly agree with you. So although it's kind of a hassle to figure all this out and to circle back and make sure you've got all those signatures and get everything where it needs to go, I think it does hold everyone accountable to make sure we're doing a good job of sharing that information. So
one last thing on that. When you guys are circling back around in those 3 days to get the rest of those signatures, please make sure that you are forwarding that to the intake specialist so that we can upload it into Impact. That is where the monitors are reviewing that information for us. And so we need to make sure that we have all signatures on that form within those 3 days to upload into Impact so that they can review it. So please, if my intake workers are chasing you down for it, if they're not just trying to be difficult, we have to have that so that we can provide it to the state.
And that is for when a placement is made. I want to clarify that. When a new placement is made, when a temporary placement is made, we have an email. It's temporary placement form at oc-ok.org that you can send the certification or updated placement summary forms to get the temporary ones. So all regular placements with your facility, be it a GRO, foster parents, if everybody does not sign at the time of placement that's supposed to sign, then please get those back to the intake box within 3 business days. But for all temporary placements, please send those to our temporary placement form email box.
And Marie, can you just say again what kinds of things are temporary placements?
Yes. Psychiatric hospitalizations, regular hospitalizations, jail, respite, things like that.
Okay. If you need any more clarification on that, just go ahead and put something in the chat, or you can always call one of us. We can talk about that. We know that's a new process. It does make sense. We know our kids have those kinds of behaviors wherever they go. And so it's just a piece that needed to be shored up. Okay. Looks like now we've got some good questions. Okay, the attachment A form needs to be reformatted to include the necessary spots for the case manager signature, printed name, job title, and date. The same needs to be done to accommodate for the administrator to do the same.
So the attachment A form is in Impact, and we really have no control over that and cannot change that form. We'll share that information with DFPS, but that's a DFPS form that is created in their system. So I mean, just feel free to add your signature wherever you can on the paper. For temporary placements, does this form need to be signed for all OCOK kids going into respite? Yes, all kids.
And that's all DFPS kids as well, right? This process impacts all conservatorship kids.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Those are good. Okay, the lawsuit, continues on. It's in the process of really, they're doing a lot of review with leadership, DFPS leadership, and the community-based care provider leadership. They're also interviewing DFPS staff. So they're a little bit ahead of the process with DFPS. So they are out interviewing conservatorship specialists and others kind of in the field. They will also be doing the same thing for the community-based care providers. So they'll be talking to some of our staff and some of our leadership. They really want to make sure there's not just a verbal process, but that you actually have implemented those and that your staff understand, kind of what that's supposed to be and what it looks like, and can give examples where they're doing that. So they're very thorough. I mean, I think they have a pretty narrow scope. They're only really technically over the PMC kids. DFPS has chosen to take a little broader view, and the things they've asked us to implement to help meet the lawsuit court orders have really involved both the TMC and the PMC kids. And we've been fine with that because we want both processes. We want all of our kids to be safe and, and that they have what they need. But for the lawsuit, they're specifically asking questions and looking at that slice of PMC kids. So they'll be out and about doing some of that work in the next few months, I would imagine. So, and they will circle back. They have a report due back to the judge in a few months, and then the judge will have an opportunity to review the progress out in the field and, you know, what they've been finding. And I'm sure that will go back to the judge. I think there's a court hearing in September that she will then be kind of seeing where everything is and how everyone is doing. Let me make sure we're not missing any. Oh, Cynthia wanted to know, where do we send the signature page for temporary care? Oh, and Marie answered that question. Okay. Temporary placement form at oc-ok.org. So, so there are other things that the monitors for the lawsuit are looking at to make sure that processes are in place. There are things like our training for permanency specialists or conservatorship workers. There's very clear criteria for what needs to happen and how soon we assign them cases, and how soon we get them out in the field. They're very actively involved in that process for all DFPS kids, including the SSCC kids. And there's several other examples. So we're just doing that kind of behind the scenes work. So there may be some other things, course training, that would not be something specific to you all. But as you can tell, one of the things that they've been particularly concerned about is sexual abuse occurring while in placements. So, or for any of the DFPS kids. So making sure that folks have had that training so that they can recognize child and child abuse and know what to do in that situation so that we can work on safety of kids. So it really all comes back to that same place. Yes, Betsy.
I'll come on video. I have what I think is probably a stupid question, but I just want to clarify. So a kid gets placed and they get this form, right? And it gets all the signatures on it. Then 6 months down the road, they go on respite. I'm taking that same form with all the signatures on it and getting another signature on it from the temporary placement.
Marie, you're saying yes to that?
Yes.
Okay, so through the life of a kid in care with a particular agency, that kid could have one form that has signatures from a placement date, signatures from respite, psych hospital, respite, like depending on how long the kid is there, that form could have lots of different signatures and dates, correct?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be the exact same form, I don't think. I mean, you can make a copy of that form and it be signed at this hospitalization, put it in the kid's file, you know, and then a copy of the initial form, get it signed at the next hospitalization, put it in the file. I don't think it has to be a running list on the same one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris and Marie. Information just has to be shared.
It doesn't need to be the same piece of paper, but the information that's given at the time of like that. But that, yes, I mean the gist of it is yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
yeah. I mean, if a kid is in and out of hospitals, you are probably going to run out of some spaces, and you'll need to attach a form. So you know,
Right.
a second page or something. So yes.
Signature and a date for every temporary placement needs to be represented.
Yes, correct.
One way or another on that document.
Yes.
Or a copy of that document.
Yes.
correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
And you know, over time, they may create something. I love that little kitty cat. They may create something that will capture all of that, but for now, that certainly is the process. Andy, were you going to say something?
Yes, I was just going to say one of the things that I'm concerned about is we all know that the sexual acting out occurs after placement occurs with us, and it may say no information on attachment A, but when they are going to a respite home and they are going to a psych hospital, we need to provide our own information of the updated information that's not on that attachment A. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, and yeah,
That information should be shared with permanency, which would then, they would then put it into impact and they can pull you a new attachment A from there with the updated information if it was confirmed, right? The attachment A is confirmed victimization. Yeah, right. So you could always, if that occurred, ask them to enter it in impact, print you a new form so that you have that.
See, we haven't been told that one piece, that they can provide us a new attachment A with that information. So that's good to know.
Yeah, because I think the monitors obviously want to make sure there's a full circle, right? So if you become aware of abuse, then permanency needs to be I mean, you hotline it, but
Absolutely.
permanency needs to be notified, and then permanency has that sets up a whole process for them making sure that impact is updated, which pre-fills all of those forms going forward. So yeah, that was a very good question.
Thank you, guys.
This is Lauren. I just wanted to clarify that there is also a spot on there for unconfirmed. So if there is something that's causing some issues, but it's unconfirmed, that can also be included in the attachment A.
Perfect. Thank you, Lauren.
And as for the certification form, you can use either or. So if you have a certification form, you can use that and sign off that the information from the placement summary was given. If you do not happen to have a certification form on you, you can just sign off directly on the placement summary. They go hand in hand. The certification form is really just the signature page.
Those are great questions. Betsy, that was a great question at the start. So thank you for that.
Right. And also, just to clarify, the placement summary and attachment A, they're basically one. They both got to be signed. They both need the 3 signatures. They need to be shared for the temporary placements. So just making sure that you're sharing both of those forms.
Okay. Any other questions or other processes that you have questions about? Okay, very good. As we're going forward, you all know you're pretty good about letting Marie or Shay or someone know, Patricia or your quality and contract specialist if you have questions. So just keep shooting those this way. We want to get that right, and we know that's a big process to implement.